You can't get 200 fish on this table.
Make room for the fish. There's so many fish, and they need to make room for them.
You can't put 200 carp on this table, can you?
No.
I remember when the left-hand rod hadn't gone for about 40 minutes and you went, there's something wrong with that. I was like, is there?
In 10 years' time, there'll be hundreds of 50-pound scalies in there. That's what I'd say. I think there's going to be hundreds of 50-pound scalies in inside 10 years.
But it's got to be the lake to do the British record, isn't it?
Some people, not like me saying this, but I think
We've got to be a little bit careful about this because
I don't think you need to be careful.
no, but
We know what it's
we
called.
know what it is and what it's about, but we don't want to give too much info away.
Yeah.
Biggest regret in your angling career, I suppose. It says in fishing, but I gather it means your angling career.
that I didn't.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
The lack of people now fishing match the hatch, like an effective rig, but match the hatch, like it must be so low percentage.
Yeah. When you get so used to bright pop-ups, though, it is just so... they work and they're convenient, and you know they're not going to get missed, so you just get into this routine of putting them on. And they do work, obviously, like really well. But, yeah, maybe brown ones have been lost a little bit.
I think so. Matching the hatch, I think, is the one.
Yeah.
We ready to go then? I reckon we go. Right. Welcome, everybody, to another Uncut podcast.
Bar Damo.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, but people that are watching can obviously see, but people that are listening, we have got no demo. It is a temporary thing, but we've got a brilliant guest in replacement of Damo, arguably the modern day GOAT of big carp fishing.
Thank you.
Darrell Peck.
Welcome aboard, Pecky.
We searched high and low to maybe get someone to fill in that hadn't had a UK 50, but we failed. So unfortunately, it's still Spooner sat on the end there. But yeah, we're going to delve into a little bit about Darrell's fishing on the big carp venue Grenville, because he's had a phenomenal few sessions on there, and we've actually made a really great film that's going to come out later in the year. And then we're going to touch on his epic capture of his 60 fully, and we've got some great questions to run through. But first of all, how is everyone, and what's everyone been up to?
Yeah, good, mate. I've been fishing a little bit and catching nothing. It's January. But yeah, I've been all good, mate.
I've been doing all right, actually.
Have you? Oh, you caught one?
Yeah, you did.
You actually caught one the other day.
Yeah.
That
You
was
caught
mad.
one of the best ones in there. Arguably the best one in there.
Nice
And it was
carp.
on a feature as well. Is that the first carp you've caught since you've been at Korda?
No,
It must be. Must be.
first carp I've caught. No, it was good. It was good, actually. I went out for a day with Ben. Not the greatest conditions, freezing cold and bright sunshine, so not the best weather for catching a carp, but it just shows you that there is always one to be had. Made it happen, caught a nice one, and yeah, there's not been a lot getting caught around the country, is there, in January? So
Not really. There's been sort of like a few weeks where a lot were getting caught at the beginning when it was really cold, and then since it's got warmer, I haven't been able to catch anything, but that doesn't mean they're not coming out, I suppose.
no, but the longer we go for, you sort of start coming out at the end of January, and February's always the time to start getting a bit itchy. I think so. I think there's some good fishing.
Have you been
coming up.
fishing, Darrell?
No,
Last
not
few
since.
weeks?
Not since. Oh no, I went to Road Lake, didn't I? I fished on.
Oh
there.
yeah, how'd that go?
It went really well. We went to make a film on the main lake. Wasn't fishing very well. Desperate for some content. Thought it's going to be more likely on Road Lake because it's closed. And found them, got on them, and caught 3 or 4 50s and several others. Yeah, good.
It's mad, isn't it? Road
Such a
Lake?
cool lake, that.
Yeah, it is. Were they
Really
were they
is.
still near the beach and that? Were they, or like decoy?
That's where we fished in the beach and caught there. I don't think they were all there,
Right.
but they were showing on that dam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were showing over there, and you put your rigs there, and they were just.
It's so bizarre that they stay there. I think because I know that I think there's a couple of like big rocks or something under the water.
Boulders.
Yeah, boulders. But that area doesn't particularly look like it should just hold a lot of the carp all of the time, does it?
And now,
Do you think?
since we went last, all those, up to your left, next to that bund, you've got you had a load of overhanging trees and a few snags. They've all been removed now.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
there's no reason for them to be held there.
No, especially when you get people going in and batter them all of the time. It's strange.
Yeah, but the rest of the lake, when you have those commercial venues that are really, really busy, you've got like lines out of every single swim all of the time. So it's like Kaplunk, that game. It's out there all the time, and
So they don't move.
no, there's no reason for them to come out. It's like this is the only place where I'm not going to be. Like lines can't go through your far bank, can they? So they're sat against the far bank, just short of any line pressure.
Yeah, but you've got the same at the other end in Brasilias, and you've got the same in between. Is it T2 and Turtles?
Turtles, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's
They
not
do
like-
go to those places as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
But nowhere
not-
near as many. Like Brasilias will always have a few residents across that far margin. I think Turtles has always got some residents, but the bulk just seem to live in the beach. Really, it is really strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, but good.
Yeah, it's a lake I'd like to fish actually. I've been to the complex to have a look when we come out to do some filming with you, but never fished at Gigantua at all. So
no, the road lake's really up and coming. It's like, is there 270s in there?
Yeah, it's done 2 different 70s.
So before it was always like you want to be on the main lake because the fish are so much bigger, but actually the road lake are catching up now, and there's obviously loads more in there. So you can catch more.
There are so many 50-pounders in there now.
Yeah.
It's actually outrageous.
Yeah, there's more 50s in Road Lake than the main lake now.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, more fish over £50 in.
That's mad.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well, let's stay on big carp then, and let's move on to the first topic we're going to discuss, and that's your time on Grenville, Darrell. So, for people that sort of don't know, it's obviously a phenomenal venue with some really incredible carp and loads of big ones. So, tell people a little bit about maybe like the size of the lake and roughly the stock and what you're actually fishing for.
Okay, it's about 70 acres, they say. It's really deep in the main. Like most of the lake is 25 to 30 feet, I would say, that sort of depth. And the way that the shape of it, the way the pylons cut across it, the way the island is in it, it creates there's a zone in the middle that's unpuncturable, as in like no matter how far you can cast, there's a bit out there where they can be safe. And aside from that, you've also got this lodge swim, which is it's not available to the syndicate members. It's exclusive bookings only. And when the lake's closed, there's like marker poles out there that get filled in the closed season, so they get to feed for free and get massive during like post spawning. But as obviously that lodge swim is a great spring swim, a great summer swim. But once you get into autumn, it's shallower out there, and they seem to migrate away from that shallower ground into that sort of safe zone out in the middle where you can't puncture. And then I sort of picture it in my mind as like hundreds, maybe thousands of carp that are sort of moving around the central body of water, and the end pegs, the ones closest to that middle zone, depending on weather conditions, are, you know, if you're in the right peg at the right time, you can have sessions that will, like, they're almost unrecreatable compared to anywhere else. You know? Yeah.
Well, I know obviously the session I come up and helped out with the videographers for your film for a day. Obviously you had, I can't remember how many carp you had. I think you had about 15 or 16 carp while I was there.
What, in a day?
Which is
No,
it's not in a day. It's like over the 24 hours or whatever I was there.
Really?
But the style of fishing was like, obviously even for me, was quite eye-opening, because obviously you weren't using a normal amount of bait because of the stock.
Yeah.
And the way you were fishing, obviously you had the handbrake on a little bit with the camera crew, but it was almost like a rinse and repeat type pattern you had going on. So just tell us a bit about like how you were actually fishing it during that session, regardless of the fact you had to do it like that because you were making a film.
Okay, so like I said, it's quite deep, and because it's quite deep, most of it's clear of weeds. You know, weed tends not to grow out in the deeper water, so it's more of a case of picking a range rather than finding the spot. I do lead around and look for sort of harder bottom out there, but the most important thing is being able to go as far as you can, but at the same time be able to fish well, as in you don't need 10 casts to hit your clip.
And for you is what sort of range can you fish at?
Depending on the wind.
70 wraps.
No. So on the mainline film I was fishing at 38 wraps, which was the week before, and the film in the Korda there was 36.5 wraps. Same feature, like there's a bit of a harder bit out there, and I was just on the nearer side when you guys were there. But
what kit are you using to do that?
Obviously it's the line. The line's the most important thing for range, the thing that's going to help you the most. Obviously got 13 foot 3.5 pound Kaizens, and
so quite
platinums.
A light rod really for that distance. You prefer the lighter ones?
I've obviously haven't got every test curve. I prefer the 3.5 to the 4.
Right.
I like the action of it better personally. I don't think it casts necessarily further, but I just prefer it.
Yeah,
it
nice.
Suits my casting style. And then I've got the middle diameter, which is the 3.0. It's the 12 pound tapered long chuck.
Yep.
4 ounce legs, it's 4 ounce lead maximum, but it's worth, when I say I'm fishing at 36 and 38 wraps, people think, cool, that's a long way, but I'm fishing with the wind off my back. Right. That's really important to get across, because that does add and make it easier. It adds range, it makes it easier.
It's still a long way though. Whether I've got a hurricane behind my back, I'm struggling.
And the thing I notice, a lot of people will say they can fish at that range, and even say further, but the reality is when you see it firsthand, there's a lot of like touch in the clip. Do you know what I mean? It's
big
like,
old bow
it's
in
hit
the
the
line.
water, it's sinking halfway down, and the wind carries on taking the line. It's dink, and that can't. But that's I can fish it well at 36, 38 wraps with the wind behind me.
I think before you carry on and go into the baiting and stuff, that is a really good point, isn't it? I think a lot of people fall foul to that. I've got this rod, I've got this line. I reckon if I really give it my best, I can get out to this range.
Yeah.
It's all right doing it once, isn't it? But then the weather changes the next day and you've put your bucket of bait out.
Yeah.
And you can literally ruin your session.
You've got to have that in mind.
Not.
You've got to look at the weather and know that you're going to be able to do what you're doing today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, that's important.
Or even wait, like sometimes, like you say, sometimes if the weather change is coming in and you want to be out in that zone, and tomorrow it might be doable for you, don't just fill it in at a range you're comfortable at and then the next day go beyond it again. Because I think a lot of people ruin this session before they even get going, don't they?
Yeah, it's easy done. You can put a load of bait out in a swim where there's no fish, and that's too much bait. Like we're going to get onto this now about me putting out 20 kilos per day, but if you put 20 kilos out in the wrong swim, that might kill your swim for the duration of your session because you haven't got the numbers of fish in your swim to warrant putting 20 kilos out. You can only put that much bait out if lots of carp are going to come to it, and you've got to make that read on, are you in the flyer, are you the favourite, or are you not quite where you need to be, and you've got to be cautious, you know, and go a different tactic.
So then onto the bait. Obviously you were getting in this pattern where you were popping the floats up just after lunch, am I right?
Yeah.
By the time you'd finish your bits of filming commitments and stuff. So rods are in, not even in the water, are they, at this point? Floats are up, and then Paul, the owner, goes out in the boat with, like you said, 20 kilos of what?
Straight, you're only allowed to use boilies there. So,
are you?
Yeah, you're only allowed to use boilies. And I was using half crumb, so like 10 kilo of crumb that's all soaked in smart liquid. Not just soaked there and then, but like soaked overnight. Pre-soaked, so it sinks.
Yeah.
Big windswept, deep venue, loads of undertow. It could easily just...
Yeah, you want as much down.
Going down like cement, like mixed cement, just going straight down.
Yeah.
So I had 10 kilo of that, 10 kilo of 10 mils, so you're trying to get as many food items as possible. And if say you put a single marker out there and you said, go a rod length left, go a rod length right, he doesn't know what angle to bait at. He's got a rough idea of what's parallel, but if you put two goalpost markers out
and stick between the two
on the boundaries of your spot, say like go up to the markers, you can even put them out fractionally wider than you're going to cast, and you say, I want it 3 foot behind the floats, bang level with the floats, and 3 foot short of the floats.
You know,
so
you've got
like a 6 foot deep. Because when you even at that range, you have to be on your bait to be getting the most of it. You know, you don't want to be past it, you don't want to be short of it. You want to be right in it, really.
Yeah.
And I think by double markering, being quite precise, like telling him how you want your bait, and then making sure that you hit your clips well and everything landing the same. That's the key. Like the right swim, loads of bait, and making sure that your rigs land in that bait.
Do you think you're smack in the centre of the bait, do you, or do you think you're shook? Because I always think about that when I'm at Gigantica, where I'm actually in where I am in the bait,
especially in 30-foot water.
Yeah, because it's hard to gauge, isn't it? Like even with my spom, I'll make sure that I put out, I'll take 3 foot off my clip and add 3 foot on or whatever, and so I've got a bit of depth to the spot because you don't really know where you're landing.
No, and so obviously that's why I'm saying give me a 6 foot depth, because I'm not 1,000% sure, but I cast out with my leading rod to the spot, and I point at the spot like you do, feel the lead down on my marker rod like that.
Yeah.
Don't pull it, take it out of the clip, and then when I do my fishing rods, I do it exactly the same. Hit the clip, point at it, and let it swing back on the same amount of line, and there could be some stretch in it, but it all depends how hard with mono, how hard you hit that clip, because I'm hitting it pretty much, I would say like 90 to 95% force but it depends on the timing. Did I catch that cast as good as the previous one? So one when you really catch it might be like and really stretch out. Another one where you might not hit it quite so hard, but in 30 foot it more or less sorts itself out.
I think it does. I've actually been out in the boat at Gigantica when my mate's cast, years ago you used to be able to go out in the boat and bait up, didn't you? It was Sparky actually in Alcatraz.
Oh yeah.
It was out about 31 wraps I think, and I was out in the boat when he hit the clip, and he hit it absolutely perfectly, and it was like 6 foot out from the boat, so I could see exactly what happened. Hit the clip, and the lead and the hook link and everything shot back to where it is. So it's like, I think in our mind, when you hit that clip and it really stretches, it's lovely because you know you've not got any tangles and it's sitting out right. But I think the reality of the situation is that even if you just clip it, you're maybe a foot or two different. So I don't think it's mad. Yeah,
I think the two floats thing, something actually I picked up off Damo a little while ago, that I never really even thought of it really when you probably should, but you pop a float out on a water, because I've got the Baston Syndicate, where you've got access to a boat to put the bait out, and it's not until you think about it, if you've only got the one float up on quite a small feature and you get out there, like unless you've got some absolutely cock-on horizontal marker or something with how you're putting it up, that feature, you are just sort of spinning on your axis, aren't you? And you're baiting up, you could be baiting on the angle, on the line, you're not really baiting up perfectly. So popping them 2 floats up like that, because I remember seeing it on the drone footage, you just know, don't you? It's just,
it looks
absolutely
epic on the drone, doesn't it? When
unreal.
you see the 2 floats like that, and you can see the cloud of the smart liquid
In
and
a
the crumb
perfect line.
going down, and it's just like, yeah, it looks.
That's all in the film. It looks
right.
I've never seen drone footage like it for baiting up. It's
No.
unreal. But I can hear people screaming now, saying, "It's all right for you putting 20 kilos in. That's a ridiculous amount of bait for one drop." But you justified it really well for me when I was there, because you were just doing it once a day, and obviously the amount of fish in there, the money you're paying to fish it. So just talk to us a bit about that for people that are probably thinking.
Well, it's
about
it's
the
a
money side
premium
of it.
venue, you know. Grenville's not for everyone, you know. It's a £2,500 ticket, I think. I'm paying £75 a night on the guest ticket to fish it. If you're going to pay that much money to sit there, and you're in the good swim, and you've got the fish in front of you, you want to make the most of that opportunity.
Yeah, they don't come around very often, do they?
Don't come around. So obviously I get my bait for free, and I'm aware of the fact that 20 kilos is probably over £200 of bait to the general angler out there. But Paul, who runs the lake, does his own bait, and it's £6 a kilo, and loads of that goes in there, and I'm almost certain that you could use his bait and have the same results as I'm having using mainline. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but you can do it slightly cheaper if you needed to.
I think that sells pretty good.
Yeah, mate. I'm not. Yeah, it is pretty good. But like,
Yeah.
I'm hearing what you're saying, though.
from people looking the outside in. The ones that will be making the muggy comments on social media and stuff are the guys that will probably never fish there. So they're having an opinion about something that's irrelevant to them. They're just liking to make some noise. And I think that, yeah, if you're on that syndicate, you're paying that money to be on there. Your time is the most valuable thing in the world. Nothing's more valuable than your own time. So yeah, if you're in that situation and you think that 20 kilos is going to catch you the most fish, put that 20 kilos in and don't go next week. You know, rather than skimp. You know,
And also witnessing it firsthand, witness you have that bait dropped off in the boat, and then within 3/4 of an hour, it's starting. Like, I mean, the film's going to be unreal. But
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
It starts, and then, I won't give too much away. But obviously, you just know if you weren't doing that, you weren't going to be catching pretty much nothing, were you? Or you'll
in my head, it's like you're trying to picture what happens below the surface. You're trying to picture the situation, and on most of my carp fishing career, I fish lakes where you're fishing for you're imagining 4, 5, 6, 7 fish finding your bait. At Grenville's, I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking of more than 200 fish finding my bait. That's how I sort of picture it in my head.
and big.
And the average weight.
And big ones. And I imagine that cloud sits in the water after the drop, and it drifts on the undertow, and there's these big pods of carp floating around like clouds, and one of them comes, and then they just, as they start dropping, it's like Spitfires coming down, and then it's all like this, and then all
Organic birds.
and all the bottom starts smoking up as well, and you get this situation where you've got hundreds of carp tearing it up, and then it becomes, how quick can you dink plop? It's like you've got to get it. I could do with 6 rods, because you 36, 38 wraps is loads of time round the distance sticks. You're double counting it to make sure you don't get it wrong. But if you had 6 rods rigged up, loads of hooks sharpened that you haven't got to sit there and check every single one, you would catch more. Because when I'm filming, there's loads of handbrake, isn't there? There's loads of pause. Can you show me this? Can you stop doing that? So I'm trying to make the most of that 20 kilos, which if you put 20 kilos out on most lakes, you might be thinking that'll come good in 3 days.
Yeah.
But on Grenville, that's going to come good in 30 minutes.
Is there an argument for putting out more then?
Yeah, I'm putting out 20 kilo because that's as much as I dare ask Kev for. I think 30 kilos is the number. Like in hindsight,
it sort of seems like if you're putting 20 out and you're getting bites within 45 minutes, it's like put 40 out, and it
doesn't last.
No,
I think over that 20 kilo drop, I'm looking to catch
ridiculous.
between
It sounds
7 and
ridiculous.
10, like 7 and 10 bites over that 20 kilo before they decimate it.
I remember how quick you got the bite, and I remember standing at the back of the swim thinking, how has a carp found that pink wafter? It literally must look unbelievable under the surface, but there must be so many carp that like the law of averages is it's probably going to get picked up, and it was just time and time again, wasn't it?
So what are you doing, Darrell, in that situation? I know it will show it in the film, but you've got 3 out there. How wide's your spot?
Quite wide, because I don't want to have to, if your middle rod goes.
This is what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Are you, if you've got one on the middle rod, you've got the fish in the net and retained it, how I think Paul asked you to retain it.
Yeah.
Are you getting that rod straight back out, or are you convinced one of them are going to go that quickly that you wait?
I'm not worried about scaring a fish with letting it in the water.
I suppose 30 foot of depth it's... Yeah.
But I'm fishing roughly 4 rod lengths apart between the floats.
Right, okay.
Because that is the sort of size of the feature-ish, but also mainly so that I can get out there in 1 to 2 casts. I don't want to be having 7 casts to get the rod back out.
Trying to thread the eye of a needle.
Yeah, I'm hitting it full pelt, roughly on the line that I want it to go, and if it lands a metre left, a metre right, it's staying.
Yeah.
Of where I've aimed, because I've given myself that room to get it back in.
It's all them little bits that make a difference, though, isn't it? You're thinking about that ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's a long way. And if you're say fishing at Norton and you're at 20 wraps, you get it as tight as you possibly can, because everything's a bit easier. At 36 to 38 wraps, you need a little bit of wiggle room, don't you?
And I'm trying to make room for more fish. As well. You can't get 200 fish on this table.
Make room for the fish. There's so many fish, and they make room for them.
You can't put 200 carp on this table, can you?
No.
And I am picturing 200 carp. I might be exaggerating, possibly, because I don't know.
Yeah, but even if it's 50.
Yeah, but even if it's 50, you've got to make a room for with an average size of 37 pound. You're making room for them.
I remember when the left-hand rod hadn't gone for about 40 minutes, and you went, "There's something wrong with that." Is there? There's something wrong with that. Have it in, recast it, get a bite. Let's just have a look at some of the carp.
Insane. What did you actually catch then, numbers-wise and size-wise?
Well, I fished 3 trips in the autumn. I fished 1 for mainline, 1 for Korda, and then one on my own. And I think I caught 20 on each session.
Right.
At 740s on the mainline film, 440s on the Korda film, and I had a 50 when I went on my own afterwards. So
I know.
Yeah, and in between the Korda film and the and my
you've caught better than Neil's career in
an afternoon.
On one rod.
But between the Korda film and the one when I went on my own, there was somebody else in the swim, and I got there and I had to wait for him to leave. So I'm sitting in my car sharpening hooks, and he's like fishing the rest of the day out, and I've seen him run down the jetty playing another fish. I thought, oh, they're definitely there then. And then Paul's come round and said, oh, do you want to come and see one of the real big ones? Out comes a sling, and I could just tell by the way the sling was bulging. I was like, none of the carp I caught done that to the sling.
No.
As it made it look like that. It was 64 pounds. So
I saw that catcher.
Yeah,
incredible.
And I was thinking, if he'd have just gone home 10 minutes earlier, he might have been swimming around out there when I got in there.
60.
Well, the carp are incredible as well, aren't they? They're not shit, are they?
Yeah, in the old days, Grenville's only had Simmos in it. When he first got it and first stocked it, it was Simmos, and then he got another strain, I think they're called like Andy Parker fish, which they haven't grown as big, but they're really nice and really scaly. And then since then, he's crossbred them, and then been introducing his own fish that are like half Mark Simmons and half this Andy Parker strain.
He's created a superwater, isn't he? A lot of hard work's gone into that.
And these fish are so young, like this. I imagine this is. I don't know. I don't pay attention to the details exactly, but I imagine that fish is like 10 years old and it's a mid-40 already, and he's putting more bait in there now than he was when he first got the lake, because obviously the syndicate's doing well. It's a good business. He's making good money from it, so more bait's going in. So these younger fish, I think the ceiling will be even higher. I think in 10 years time there'll be hundreds of 50-pound scalies in there. That's what I'd say. I think there's going to be hundreds of 50-pound scalies in inside 10 years.
But it's got to be the lake to do the British record, isn't it?
It's got 460s in it, I think.
Do you think it would do a 70-pounder under that sort of management?
It's got to,
isn't it?
So.
Yeah, but basically you're looking for the right freak, aren't you? Because carp of that that go to that size, obviously normally they live in low stock venues and they just get big because of the amount of natural food that they have available to them. But on a lake like that, it is bait. Much like a commercial fishery in France, like a Gigantica or whatever, you've got people in a lot of swims, a lot of bait going out. So yeah, it's just the right freak going missing for a couple of years, because obviously getting caught is the bit that usually holds them back a little bit.
How big's that one? Is that your
57?
That is the
one.
57. I thought
that was from September. That wasn't in those 3 sessions, but
incredible.
Yeah.
We won't stay on this for too long, purely because there is obviously an amazing film coming out that and that film is all about a particular product that's going to be coming out, which is obviously going to be great. So we won't obviously speak about that either. So we'll move on to somewhere else that you've actually made a film as well. So we've got to be a little bit careful about this, because
I don't think you need to be careful.
No, but
we know what it's called.
We know what it is and what it's about, but we don't want to give too much info away that's going to spoil the film. But you decided to go after the biggest fully in the country, an absolute monster, 60-pounder. Obviously backed yourself to do it, and did it in a sort of, not a strange way, but you fully committed and decided to book the lake for yourself. I know you tried the year before and it didn't quite work out, and then you did it again. So what was the sort of thought behind that? Obviously the fish, but what made you sort of commit that heavily to that carp?
Obviously I have loads of commitments, filming commitments for Korda, mainline, and for carp fix, etc. And the real key to standing the best possible chance is consistency. You know, if you can be consistent over a period of time, you've got more chance of succeeding. And if you've got fishing for a carp that comes out 4 to 5 times a year, it's that's what I would call that a relatively friendly / catchable carp. And what you're hoping when you book, so that first year, last year, I booked 3 weeks. I'm hoping that it hasn't been caught for 4 or 5 weeks before I get there.
Yeah, because then it's well due.
Then it's due, and then my job at that point is just to catch as many as possible and then hope he's in amongst them. But last year what happened is someone caught it. It came out twice just before I got there. So in the 2 weeks before I was there, it came out twice. So I've arrived for a 3-week session that's cost me several £1,000s, knowing that it's probably pretty unlikely. And I'd done really, really well last year, like 35, 38 fish I think I caught, but I didn't catch it. So this year when I went back, I went in October the first time, and it got caught in September before I got there. So I would have probably booked September if I had the opportunity, but this I couldn't. I had to rebook October because it was already gone, and I booked the new moon because it's expensive, which is £1,600, and then I had a week off.
Well, the moon's more expensive on there.
No. But
I thought you'd put the
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Last year I booked 3 weeks,
right,
and he done me a deal because I put him in touch with Embryo, and they put a fence around the lake. So I got I got three weeks of £3,000.
Yeah.
For putting him in touch with Embryo. Right. But this time it was like full price, no discount. £1,600 for a week. I couldn't want to throw that much money at it, so I booked the new moon, and then I had a week off, and then went back for the full moon.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was you just said then about catching as many as possible? Was that literally the game plan? I'm going to go there and I'm just going to try and catch as many carp as possible.
Yeah, but that's always the game plan. There's a lot of talk in
but is there anything
fishing
about that carp that you've done some research and thought, I know what it likes and how it likes to be caught? There's always some little...
Well, I was fishing pop-ups over my bait the first year, because the first year you're allowed to use worms. And I knew that if I was fishing on the bottom, say with worms on the hook as well, like a kebab sort of style rig, you're going to get more pickups like that. But I feel that when you're fishing a lake with a lot of carp and they're feeding on the spot, the pop-up stand's ignored, and then the big greedy one comes in and just slams it like that. I feel that does happen. The hinge rig is a classic big fish rig. I'm not saying it's the best rig in the world, but it is a classic for big carp. And I fished that way because I was thinking about that fish, but I don't know enough about the venue to be saying I'm only going to fish this swim, I'm only going to fish that swim. It's more a case of just catching as many as you can, and that is how I generally fish anyway. I don't specifically target areas where carp get caught, because I think a lot of the time it is BS. I think sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not.
Has that carp got a sort of history of coming out when someone's having a bit of a red letter session, or is it done a lot of single captures? Or
I think with a carp that comes out 4 or 5 times a year, I think it can come out in every way. You know, it's you can catch it amongst loads of other fish. You can catch it as a single bite. It's just a carp that is obviously, when it sees bait, is more inclined to drop and eat it rather than one that's like panicky and nervous.
I think people make up stories about the big ones because they're the ones you're paying attention to. Whereas if you literally picked one of the carp out of a hat, out of all of the pictures, and you paid attention to it over a few years, it would act weird as well when you realise that they're just all the same.
Yeah, you tie yourself up in knots.
I think so, a little bit. Yeah.
You can overcomplicate it, can't you? Overthink it.
Just
let's have a little look at it, Kev, if you can stick it up for us. It's all right, that, isn't it?
I love that picture.
Yeah.
it's slightly different as well because of the framing. I just think it looks.
Ben's good.
Ben's very good. Very good. Benny Allen.
Shout out Benny Allen. It looks amazing, doesn't it, that fish?
One thing I will say about how big, what's the exact weight there on that?
I think it was 63.5.
63. I feel like it looks enormous, but it's such a great shape that it doesn't look like an absolute monster, does it? It just looks really in proportion and big.
And it's so rare for a carp with that many scales to get that big. Yeah. It doesn't happen very often, does it? Well, obviously it's the biggest in the country, that's what we're talking about, but you don't see many massive fully scaled mirrors anywhere.
No, that's what was the appeal for me. Yeah. It's like you can't go anywhere in Europe and target a 60-pound fully scaled that I know of. And secondly, like, because I fish all over the place, like doing what I do, to be able to book a lake exclusively, although it's very expensive, and to look forward to that all year. I think that's my autumn this year. I'm going to be fishing for a 60-pound fully scaled on a tiny little lake, and if it farts, I'm going to know about it. That's sort of my thought process. I'm going to have my eyes on the lake. No one else can take it from me in that time frame when I've got it.
Yeah, you're only up against just the carp, aren't you?
Yeah, that's people talk about like sense of achievement. It's more about the experience. Like, what do you want when you go carp fishing? You want the chance to catch something really special, and you don't want to have to fight with people to get to it. So that was something to really look forward to, and the buzz was real. It was,
and to put it into perspective, I know you did 2 weeks, so you're doubling the money, but you've kind of set yourself up for a bit of holiday fishing. If someone was going to France and they're paying their crossing, they're getting all their bait, they're paying for the lake, £1,500-1,600 is a week's fishing for that sort of thing, isn't it?
Like most people that book that venue probably go, I would say, I think the average, you speak to Justin who runs it, I think 4 to 5 is the normal amount of people that would split that £1,600 cost between them, 4 or 5 people. But because I'm there for that one fish, not just the experience.
You don't want to share it, do you?
Yeah, I'm stacking the odds in my favour. Like, as much as I'd love a bit of company with a couple of my mates, I'd rather catch it than photo it for them.
I'm hearing you.
And if my mate did catch it, I'd take great pictures and I'd be well done. Don't get me wrong. But when I'm planning that, I'm thinking, I don't really want that. I'm being honest.
What's the growth been like on that carp? Is it getting bigger each year?
I think it touched 60 a couple of years back, and it's now like 63.5, 64. I think at its biggest. There's quite a few fish in the lake. He says maybe as many as 200. I think it's less than that. I think it's probably nearer 100 than 2. But what it's now, you've got 4 or 5 blokes around it every night, filling it in with bait, because they all think obviously that's the way to go, and you're getting that sort of commercial fishery snowball thing going on with it. I think the next time you'll see a jump with it will be when it goes missing. Do you know, like when a carp, like, it managed to avoid capture for 6 months or something, and because it's always these little knockbacks, getting caught, sulking for a bit, coming back out. So I think that there is potential for that to be a British record, potential, because it's a male. I think as well, but being a male, it's got more chance of lasting, as in, like, quite often fish that grow really fast, really quickly, they die, and they usually run into spawning complications, where if you look at the biggest carp of the years gone by, Mary, I'm pretty sure Mary was a male, Two-Tone was a male, I'm certain that's a male. I think there's potential for that one to be a record. I really do.
Well, me and Spooner are fishing for it on the underwater cameras in the autumn, in the spring.
Very exciting.
Can you imagine seeing that on the underwater camera?
Oh my God. Could you imagine dealing with playing it if it picks it up and you actually catch it?
No, that's
you ain't dealing with that very well, are you?
No.
Can you just do a little bit to No.
Do that in a minute.
Leave me alone.
Oh my God.
That is going to be so exciting.
What do you think the chances are of us getting that? We're obviously going to... It would be nice if you could pop down.
Any
tips, some pointers. How many reps?
I think a really good chance, because exactly what I just said, the lake is a commercial fishery now, so it's got people casting in it all the time. It's under pressure, like Kaplunk, 4 to 5 guys every night. When you go there, put an underwater camera in it, in the best time of year, the end of the spring, that lack of angling pressure is not to be underestimated. Like, I think the best thing you can do to make carp gain confidence is leave them alone, and you're going to leave them alone. So that and I think that
you definitely want to.
If it hasn't been caught as well, in an ideal world, it hasn't been out in April. If it doesn't matter if it gets caught in March, I don't think. If you get there at the end of April, which is when you're going to start, if you can get there and it hasn't been caught in April, I think you're
game on.
That is actually, there will be nervous leading up to that trip.
Oh,
because it's like, has it come out? Has it come out? Has it come out? If it hasn't, then we're setting up, pushing our bank sticking.
Oh my
thinking,
God.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Where would you? Something I'd like to know, Darrell. Where do you rate that in your captures? You've obviously had a lot of big carp, a lot of special carp. That's arguably one of the newest big uns you've ever caught.
The buzz was extreme because obviously I'm heavily invested from the previous year. If you'd caught it on the first night, it'd have been a bit, you know. But because I had done that first year,
You've committed.
I'd done really well last year. I went away with a tail between legs. And this year, it's sort of, I didn't do very well in the first week, and I caught it on the second week. And when I was on that second week, I started catching well, and I'm thinking, hasn't been out for 5 or 6 weeks. Like every bite, it could be. I won't go into it because obviously it was a film.
Yeah, you told me
it was a boat battle. And I saw it, and I was in a mess when they came down to fight. I was in a mess. I was trying to pack up, but I put one tent peg in my bag, and then I go and do something else, and then I'd be like, I was putting my tent pegs away, and I basically packed up and then reset up because I'm staying. I was in a mess, just spinning around in circles.
So special then.
Yeah, exactly.
I can I know it hasn't got the history and of, say, a Heather the Leather and things like that, but in terms of rarity, that you can't catch a 60-pound fully scaled anywhere. And as soon as I saw it, I thought that doesn't come up every day, and the chance to fish for it exclusively is like, that's special as well. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and buzzed from catching it. But
mega.
I can see why some go, oh, it's on you, Simo.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even put in there big. It was bought as a pounder.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
He bought it as a 1 pound carp. He had it in a fish tank for a short while. It's went in the lake, and he's got photos of it all the way through. So it wasn't like he bought the biggest of a batch of 40-pound stockies, and then it's grown on from there. That has grown that big. It was a syndicate lake previously. For me, that's 100% legit. But we were talking off air that what makes something valuable, and the value of something for me is determined by how difficult it is or how rare something is. So it's extremely rare in the grand scheme of things, because you can't get 60-pound fully scales anywhere else. But at the same time, it comes out 4, 5, 6 times a year, so it is attainable if you go after it. So. Yeah, I buzzed.
Great.
Sick fish.
Amazing fish. Well, we'll come away from that again because we don't want to give too much away. Yeah. We'll go on to some questions now. Now, it's actually quite similar to what we've just asked, but obviously it's got slightly different context. And it's a question from Where Kraken. And it says, does catching big carp from a lake like Grenville, where there's tons of 30s, 40s and 50s, take away the shine of catching big carp elsewhere? You've obviously caught some really special carp like heather, dustbin, etc. Does that sense of achievement massively differ catching the big uns from somewhere like Grenville to, say, somewhere like the Car Park Lake, where they're few and far between and a lot harder to obtain?
It doesn't take away from anything, but the sense of achievement is completely different. When I was 21 years old fishing at Yateley, I went there because I wanted to prove to myself that I could compete at that level, that I was good enough, and then the chance to hold history fish that the likes of Terry Hearn and that had caught. So that was an extreme buzz, like low 40s, high 40s, whatever they were. We're still talking about this now 20 odd years later. So that tells you something. And it's unlikely that I'll be talking about the ones that I caught from Grenville this autumn in 20 years' time. But I enjoy what I do at Grenville, but at the same time, that doesn't take away, because the question was, does it take away? It doesn't take away from anything. I'm not a carp snob. I participate in all disciplines of carp fishing, from day ticket fishing, club lake fishing, European fishing, commercial carp fishing, syndicates, bounty hunting,
match fishing. You used to do that?
Yeah, I've done it. I've done all different, but I'd hate to be one of these, I only fish public lakes, or I only fish for the best of the best British. Some people are like that, and if that's what rocks people's world, then by all means do that. But I do think that there's a lot of noise from people that want to sound elitist and make their fishing sound better than others, and for me, whenever I hear that, I just like, You know, just like you've got an opinion, but your opinion is trying to make what you do sound better than what someone else is doing. And for me, I've got no time for that.
Solid point. That.
Yeah. What about you? But you share that opinion? Interesting bouncing around you too.
Yeah. I do lots of different styles of fishing. It doesn't. It's all like you just want to have a bit of fun. That's it. Whatever, if it excites you, go and do it. If it doesn't, don't ever go at somebody else. Yeah. It's like it just doesn't matter to me at all. And fishing's different for everyone, you know. My fishing's very different to Darrell because I have less time because I choose my life's very different. Chose a very different life, so it means that I couldn't go and do the same style of fishing that Darrell does. It doesn't mean that I'd ever go at what he does, and I hope it means he wouldn't ever go at the fishing I do. And that's just the way it is. It's like. You've got some time to go fishing, spend it however you want to spend it, catch the fish that you want to catch, and if it's a buzz for you, then brilliant.
Easy, isn't it?
Yeah,
easy.
It's very simple. Yeah.
And you wouldn't have the drive, Darrell, would you? The amount of, like you say, big carp you've caught, if that shine had been taken away, the amount you have caught now from different venues, you probably wouldn't still be doing it. If the day that you're not propping a net up with a big carp in and sitting there buzzing with a cup of tea, you probably had enough, haven't you? And you probably don't want to be doing it anymore.
The only thing I'd like to add from my point of view is that I don't really like big carp. That's probably why I'm not. That's probably why I've not caught a 50. That's through choice.
The good thing is though is that there are lots of different venues now in the UK that allow you to, that allow somebody that's got a family, a normal job, not in the fishing industry, to go there and be able to, catch a 40 or a 50 pounder and feel the buzz that that Darrell would feel
absolutely
in his world. Do you know what I mean? That's an amazing thing.
That's the most important thing. Feel it however you feel. It's like if you can get the buzz.
Yeah, that's it.
Easy.
That is it. Yeah. And catching big uns that are easy doesn't ruin the other ones. It just can't. It just. If you love fishing, then it doesn't really matter, does it?
Don't say easy in the album, does it?
Exactly.
Just says £55 or £45. No, 45. Great. Right, 45. 49 as well. Right, moving on. We've got a question from Kevin Smith. I like this one. And it's, is bounty hunting dead? So, other than anglers like yourself, Darrell, and like Terry Hearn, for example, there's not as many guys out there now chasing the biggest carp in the UK. Especially now there's 2 or 3 that could do the record. A bit double-barreled this, and then it says now a lot of the big carp anglers are signed to big brands. Is the pressure of filming and creating content slowly taking that chase for the biggest away?
You want me to answer?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
we'll bounce it around. But obviously, I think you're very qualified to answer it.
Okay, from someone who works or is a sponsored angler, I can't just go and fish, say, Burfield, and that be my entire year because I can't create enough diverse content for me to earn the money that I need to earn, and the tackle companies wouldn't support that just what I do. So I think there is people that work in the industry tend to fish lots of different waters that are more realistic because of that reason. But there's different people do different things. Like there's people like Miles Gibson, Scott Lloyd, the 2 Luke Stevenson, Luke Valerie, Tom Stokes, that have been around bounty hunting and doing what they're doing, but I don't think of myself like that. I'm trying to be more different, as in doing different styles.
Yeah, more rounded.
I'm not trying to say better, but I'm not trying to be a bounty hunter. I've lost a little bit of love for the UK scene because there's so much snobbery in it. I'm not about that. I like going to Orient and fishing on wild venues. I like going to Gigantica and having a social, making a nice film. I like doing loads of different stuff. But I think the UK big carp circuit, big carp thing is dropping away, and I think the main reason for that is because there's more big uns. So it used to be you're targeting certain fish. Like there was only a handful of them, and they were the ones to go for.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's so many big fish, that's watering everything down, and the average guy that's got a normal job can't compete on those venues, and they're more inclined to go abroad for you can have a week's holiday and go and fish for a big carp in a more easier setting. So I do think that bounty hunting in the UK is becoming less because a lot of obviously the well-known anglers are doing different things as well. I think
if your like your brand ambassador or sponsorship deals weren't there, Well, no. Say the commitments were different. Say Mainline and Korda said to you, you've got no commitments for the next 2 years. If you want, you can go and fish for the Burfield Common. You're not if you want, but like, you know, there's nothing for there's no time for us that you need to put aside. Would you then go and do something different, or would you be doing exactly the same fishing as you're doing now?
No, I'd probably be doing something different. I'd probably be basically I won't be going to Orient for the next little while for reasons I won't go into. For 3 years, and I have got a Burfield ticket.
Right.
So basically, I need to make a decision of what I'm.
Well, maybe you should go and do that. And
the thing,
figure it out.
Like I said earlier in the podcast, if you're going to try and do something really difficult, it's all about stacking the odds in your favour, and consistency is that, for me, it's the biggest tool. That when I look at my calendar, I've got like this work shoot, and the thing that I like the most is when I have a block of free time. And when I have a block of free time, then I target something for myself. Like then I think, right, I'm going to concentrate on trying to achieve this in this time frame. And if I can juggle it, because I've only got to do a certain amount of films for Korda and Mainline and carp fix. All I need to do is if I can keep like a 12-week period where it's not too broken up. I'm not saying I can't work for 12 weeks solid, but if I can do as little as possible work-wise in a 12-week period, then I'd be inclined to take on a challenge like that. And it might be I do that for 3 years in a row, you know. So yeah, I would probably be doing. Say I was fishing Orient. If I could have fished Orient how I wanted, right, for the last few years, I'd have fished a 10-day session every month.
Right.
That's what
so that you don't have to get going again.
Yeah, I'd go there in April for 10 days. I'd go there in May for 10 days. I'd go there in June for 10 days. And that was what I would have done in because Orient's been obviously my biggest thing. So I would be doing that if I didn't have work. Everyone thinks I'm a full-time angler and I just do what I want. But I've got to do X amount of days for Korda, X day for Mainline. I've got things to do. So we've all got responsibilities that take. And then I have to be realistic with what I'm going to do with my own time. You know, what's possible. And Burfield for the last few years hasn't been realistic, but it might be.
And let's not forget, on top of all that, you've got a family. So it's like there's always other stuff you know, other stuff that it's not just fishing, is it?
No. We're all juggling time to different degrees, aren't we?
It's a shame, really, though, that I think people from the outside won't realise that. It's a shame, really, that the sponsorship deals that allow you to do what you love get in the way of doing what you love from the beginning. Yeah, but it's like we or companies are deciding to back you because of who you are and what you're doing, and then actually in the process of doing the stuff for us, you lose what you are in the beginning. Do you feel like that a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, it's a give, isn't it? You know, I want to be as valuable for the companies that I work for as possible, so I can demand the biggest fee. But I do want to I'm still a passionate angler. I'm not just in it for the money. Do you know what I mean? I'm a passionate angler. Yeah. And I'm juggling those two things. Yeah. It's like
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Good question. That
it's very
really good
it's
question.
Good chat.
Right, slightly easier one, or slightly shorter one anyway. What's your biggest regret? This is aimed at you, Darrell. Biggest regret in your angling career, I suppose. It says in fishing, but I gather it means your angling career.
That I didn't go and catch the black mirror. That's because some people, not like me saying this, but I think it was a very catchable carp. And the biggest thing that stopped people going there was because the fear of getting caught. And the brief times that I did fish there, no one was looking to catch anyone fishing there. It was just a lake that didn't have anyone running it. Yeah. I don't think you meant to catch it, but there wasn't bailiffs and stuff looking to catch people. And it lived in a low stock lake, and it was catchable, one of the best carp that's ever lived. So that's one. And the other is that I didn't fish Raisbury after Mary died, because I saw Luke Stevenson talking about this on a social media clip the other day. When Mary died, there was no 50s in there. And there was 50s popping up and people started going there, and there was a time where you could have joined Raisbury and fished for Cluster, Mary's Mate, the Pug, all of those like super cool carp, and I know that they only sold 7 tickets for a few years in a row. And
is that when Penny was fishing there?
Yeah, and you could have learnt to boat fish on a crystal clear lake for those carp. And I remember at the time I was going to fish for carp like Ledway's charity fish, you know, like 40,
because it was £50,
because I was chasing the numbers, trying to catch a 50-pounder. But super cool. It wasn't as snobby back then. You know, it was more about in pursuit of the largest rather than catching the best of the best.
Yeah.
And when I look back to have fished that lake with only 7 other fucking members, can you imagine?
How good that would have been.
How good that would have been. Like, yeah.
Raspberry's amazing as well. Just the look of it, there's something lovely about it.
It's an incredible lake.
Yeah.
Was the black mirror on the cards? Did it die before you got a chance?
No, I fished there. I fished there, and I caught, and I saw it in the water lots. But in the very brief time that I fished there, I certainly didn't go more 3 or 4 nights without a take.
Did you possibly? Did you lose something? I hate to bring up a loss, but we have to. We're being honest.
We're talking about regret.
I remember having a chat with you.
Okay, so I spoke to Johnny Mack who'd caught it. He said there's a swim called the Rat Hole. It historically gets caught. I think more than 50% of his captures were from this Rat Hole swim, and it was quite often caught sort of 60, 70 yards out of that swim. And I basically waited for the wind to blow. I saw some other people that were fishing there in April, and nothing had been caught, and I just rolled up there at absolute prime time in May on a south-southeaster that blows into that area, went straight in the swim, flicked out 3 chods in that zone, like naked chods. Woke up at first light, a plane came out of Heathrow. As it came out of Heathrow, I see one show, like literally, like I didn't hear it, I saw it, like, and I thought that's close, and then I heard a buzzer, but because the plane was so loud, I didn't think too much of it. And then I walked back to my rods, and one of the buzzers, the indicators was into the alarm. I picked into it, reeled it in. It was a small common. I was back at the bivvy putting a fresh rig on, and then I heard another alarm go, and I was like, oh no. And that was a good fish. And there was other big fish in there. But I was in that swim. It was due out, and I lost a good fish close in. Sorry, mate.
Anyway,
So
cheers. Just for bringing that up, mate.
Oh, brilliant. Right, we've got one. Let's have one more question. After doing the underwater, which obviously I was lucky enough to do with you, Darrell, is there anything that you would change approach-wise going forward now you've had that experience?
We'll have you answer this as well after.
All right.
Yeah,
on
you were
the
together.
same thing, yeah.
Yeah, the thing the real hard takeaway from me watching it was that I didn't go to match the hatch sooner. I like to believe that I'm a good reader of situations, and you can look left or you can look right. And I thought I had the wrong colour on because I wasn't getting the reaction, or the wrong goo on. You know, I'm looking for the next colour change, next goo change or something. When the real answer was they were eating those baits like they were going wild for them, and I should have had match the hatch on. And in hindsight, if you look at the bigger picture, for the last 10 years, spinner rigs have been the thing. Before that, it was chod rigs. Before that, it was stiff hinge rigs. 90% of people these days are fishing bright pop-ups or bright wafters, and I think it's high time that you start bucking the trend. That's my opinion.
It's to be clear as well. Match the hatch means fishing the same, but to anyone that's just got into it, the same hook bait as your free feed. I think you was putting out it was 10 mil sail, wasn't it?
They were going mental for those 10 mil sail, and I had 12 mil wafters, like of the same thing, and I should have had them on. In my opinion, I should have had them on. That should have been my go-to.
It sort of worked out as well. The timing of that, it was midsummer, wasn't it? Was it June?
Yeah,
just before spawning.
Yeah, it was. I think it was May.
Spawning.
I think it was May.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So I always sort of feel like the closer you get to summer, the more they're actually in bait, and the more you should probably have bait on the end. Maybe.
Good point.
You sort of do the same a lot with the sweet corn.
Yeah.
I've fished with you, and you've outfished me on that fake sweet corn. It's like,
Yeah.
but I think that time of year they're tuned into food, maybe, and maybe you should have food or what imitates the food you're putting out on the end.
Yeah.
I think in the spring having something bright and something slightly different to what you're putting out makes them eat it almost like a lure. But the reality is, when they're properly chowing food, maybe we should think about more about putting match hatch on. I'm the same.
I'm guilty of that.
I use yellows all the time.
Because you've done well in the spring. Say you're using bright pop-ups on your spinner rigs in the spring, and you're catching really well. It's really hard to know when that transition is, when you should be
switching.
Yeah,
you know, when it goes from being the best thing to have on to not the best thing, and it's like making that call when you're not getting the reaction that you want.
I had exactly the same thing at Raspberry last year. Spring was yellow. I was fishing a lot of sweet corn and boilies, and I was fishing yellow pop-ups, and I had one trip where I just didn't get the bites I thought I should have, and I put fake sweet corn on and started catching those again. But then sometimes you have them when there's loads of fish there, and it's going so mad that actually fishing something like a pop-up that's more blatant and better presentation, as a whole you end up getting more bites. So sometimes you drift back towards them yellow pop-ups, especially when you're fishing over sweetcorn and that, because they're not actually that different to what you're putting out anyway. So I think there are times we can go back to them, but yeah, we should definitely think about it more.
Well, I think we had that conversation off air before as well. I think you always revert back to type and that safety of being actually fishing all the time as well, don't you, with those spinners and stuff. Pretty much you can sit back in the bivvy and put the kettle on and you're angling, like whether it's landed not quite right, you're angling. And I think with fishing match the hatch, sort of, I would say 9 times out of 10 people go more for like something supple or something a little bit with a little bit more movement in it, and it's just
not it. Sometimes
I had this conversation. Me and Josh just been driving out to Den Bosch and had exactly the same conversation. So without jumping on Pecky's bandwagon, that's literally would be my takeaway from the underwater would be that. And I know already, like if I get a chance this year to do an underwater, that would without doubt be my opening gambit, would be matching what I'm putting out there. Especially as I think any success I've had the back end of last year on the Euro trips.
Pretty limited, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty limited.
Success on the Euro trip.
Yeah. But just everything about it is always that matching. Either matching the tigers I'm putting out, or double 18 mil matching the bottom baits, the baits I'm putting. And when you think about it, I have this conversation with myself every year, even with 3 yellow pop-ups out there sometimes. While I sit there putting a quarter of a bucket of chops and cell out, and then I go and put something over the top that's bright yellow. It's literally it's stupid. It seems, doesn't it?
Well, it depends.
I know it
if
works.
they like it more.
Yeah, I know that, but it seems.
I swear it's a time of year thing. I really do. Like, and even more so in the autumn.
Yeah.
Like you really want something on that they're eating. I think as you go through the year, they sort of lose their effectiveness. I think if you saw a graph, it would cross somewhere in the middle of the summer.
You're right.
But it's difficult to know, isn't it? Going back to the whole presentation thing, I always. One thing in my mind that I will always say is that I'll always pick presentation over effectiveness, because over a long period of time, I think even if something isn't as good as the thing that works almost all of the time but isn't sitting right all of the time, you spend a lot of your fishing time sitting there not fishing, and that's very unproductive when it comes to like compounding your results, because you need to know something's happening. So fishing them pop-ups for me is like, I know the pop-ups work, I know that the spinner rigs work, they will go if I get them feeding, and you can build on that a lot of the time. If you're putting something out there that isn't necessarily sitting right every single time, even if you get that scenario where you would have got a bite and you don't get the bite, you obviously don't get the next bite and then the next bite and the next bite. So it's like you're trying to find that middle ground of something that's presented every single time that they definitely will eat.
Could eat.
Could eat.
Yeah.
Can eat.
It's presented in a way that they can get it if they want it, rather than it's out of sight, they're not going to see it, they can't get it.
Yeah, because then you've done everything else right and they just haven't picked your bait up. That's bad. That's not good.
The great thing about this, though, the underwaters, the bait, the rigs, we could fast forward 20 years and we'll be having exactly the same conversation, because nothing's ever going to be perfect for every situation, is it? So it's an ongoing topic. It's all personal preference. Most of us chop and change at some point and try different things out, even though we've had loads of success with something else. So
it's nice that it changes throughout the year, because it means that you have to think about it, and then your experience comes into it, and it's like something doesn't feel right here, and you know what to change to. They're the things that catch you more carp.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, it's a good place to wrap it up. We'll just go around and quickly ask what everyone's up to over the next few months. Is there some fishing going on before we close?
I will say something we haven't mentioned. Me and Darrell actually filmed a Thinking Tackle last year. It was the first time we fished together, certainly on camera anyway, and we went to Carp Lantis. We found something weird out about the thermocline and these weird little shrimp things that are in it, so you'll have to watch it to find out what that is. But we had a very, very difficult trip that ended with an absolutely amazing carp that Darrell caught.
An incredible carp.
When is that out?
And I don't know when it's out. Not long, because the edit's I'd say 85-90% there. And it's
dark,
it looks
the old
really
grade,
good.
isn't it?
We've changed the grade. Kai's a new lad that works here. Has he been here yet?
No, I don't think so.
But he's done
What's a talent?
Yeah, he's done an absolutely amazing job on it. So I'm looking forward to that coming out as well. So keep an eye out.
Mega. One thing we have forgotten, Darrell, your little giveaway.
Oh yeah, and you got a telephone.
What you got for us?
What are you doing?
John asked me to put out a little let people know that the Kaizen greens have come back into stock.
Okay.
And I said to him, if I give mine away to someone that shares the post, they'll be more inclined to share it. That will give it bigger reach.
Nice.
Which it did. So I've got 3 Kaizen green 12-foot 3.5s and a 12-foot spod rod that I'm going to give away to someone who shared the post.
Unreal.
How are we going to pick that then?
Well,
let Dovey do it.
You need to flick a coin for Facebook or Instagram because I don't run it across
Who's
both.
got a coin? There we go. That didn't last long.
Right,
Instagram.
I hate
Okay.
Facebook, didn't you?
So
I don't mind it, but,
Instagram.
you know.
You're old, didn't you?
Instagram.
Drum roll.
Drummer, hang on. I'm going to let Dovey
Sorry
pick.
for the sound there.
Let Dovey pick.
Yeah.
What if I pick spoon?
You better pick me.
I entered enough times.
How do we find out who shared it?
My personal set.
Oh.
How do we find out who
How
shared
do we
it?
find out who shared it?
I don't know.
Well, just pick someone that commented on it.
Is that
Only
what
if
we
they've
said we
shared
were
it, though.
gonna
If
do?
you've done the...
No, actually, no. There's the shares there, is it?
Yeah.
Talking to your mic, Dovey.
Is that the shares there?
Yeah, that's the shares.
No, that's not.
Oh, no, that's not. That's who you're going to
that
share it to.
with.
Punch into the comments. Does anybody say shared Opal win or anything like that?
Yeah, there'll be, yeah.
There you
Okay,
go.
reaction and views. Like.
This is like-
this is like.
This is pro level here.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
know. We know
Competition
just
winners.
what we're
It's
doing.
still random.
You can tell.
Yeah.
You should
It's-
pick
it's
Facebook.
actually-
It's a lot more straightforward.
It's as random as you get. This winner is going to be
Yeah.
extremely
Okay,
lucky.
what about love shared all over Facebook and Insta?
Yeah.
Done both.
Oh, no, is that love shared all over Facebook and Insta? What does he love?
Oh no! Now you've tangled with the carrot. You
Yeah,
nearly
you-
won, by
Okay,
the way.
no,
I think you've got to go for
Let's
that
pick
comment.
him, even if he hasn't done it. So
Right,
it's
screen
Ribbit
grab him.
Naylor. Simon Naylor.
Simon Naylor, you have just won 3 Kaizen green
12-foot 3.5s
12-foot 3.5s
and a spod rod.
and a spod rod.
And his profile says, I only fish for history fishing big uns.
And I hate Grenville. Thanks, lads. It was really good.
Yeah, well done.
See you next time.